Hello, everyone. Feng Shui Nation. This is how I'm gonna address all of you guys from now on. You're my Feng Shui people. Welcome to another live stream. If this is your first time stumbling onto my videos, my name is Safrina Kadri. I am the founder and principal consultant of Feng Shui and Prosper. You are going to see the camera moving a little bit and maybe even a puppy yelping in the background because I have my puppy in the office with me today. He was moving my camera stand, so let's hope he doesn't knock it over today. Hey, Sophie. Okay, so today we've got a couple of, well, actually we got a really important topic, and I'm gonna do like a mini training for you guys. Okay, this is one of the most important foundational information for anyone who is serious about Feng Shui. Okay, now though you guys have heard me talk about fast food Feng Shui before. Fast food Feng Shui will not talk about this topic. Okay, fast food Feng Shui is all about diluted stuff. It's all about all houses having the same energy. All houses gets the same Feng Shui treatment. That just doesn't make sense. Today's topic, where we talk about determining the period, is ingrained in all classical Feng Shui formulas and trainings. Okay? In classical Feng Shui, if you don't have the period, like we're talking about Flying Star, we're talking about 6 methods, Shen Gong Da Gua, Qin Men Dun Jia, all those schools of Feng Shui talk about determining the period. Now, I've got a slide ready for you guys, if I can find it. Okay. Actually, before I go into that, how many of you guys put it in the comment? How many years have you done or been interested in Feng Shui? And when was the first time you started doing Feng Shui based on the period of your home? Put it in the comment. Whether you guys are on Facebook or on YouTube, put it in the comment. I want to see. Don't feel bad starting off in fast food Feng Shui. That's how I started off too, right? Because that's where most books and online information is from. But I want to see, I'm curious to see how far were you in your Feng Shui journey before you were exposed to the idea that there is a Feng Shui period. Leslie says 2018. Okay, anyone else? 3 years ago. Okay, good. Tara was last year. Lydia was, you said 15-3. So does that mean that you've been following Feng Shui for 15 years and you've done period Feng Shui based on period for 3 years? Gretchen says 5 years ago. Katya says the day you found me. When was that, Katya? Sylvia says, I started learning classical Feng Shui from my Feng Shui 2020 class. Shantae says, just started this year with me last month. My goodness, Shantae. Well, I'm glad. I am glad that most of you, or even if some of you, if you're still doing Feng Shui without the period, let me know as well. I'm here to save you. I'm here to save your time. I'm here to save your energy. I'm here to save your effort in wasting time on the wrong Feng Shui. I wonder if that's my husband. Hey, babe. Let's see if he can get the dog. Okay, go to daddy. His bed is here. Do you want his bed?
He probably doesn't want it.
Okay, for those of you who didn't see my puppy, you guys get to see him one more time. One more time for the camera. Here you go. Hey, buddy. This is the one that's a little bit naughty, making noises in the background. Okay. Ah, Lydia says, I use the period, but based on the day the house was built. Okay. Yes. So let's jump into it. Okay. Let me get rid of this. And how do I make this larger? Okay. So there are 4 types of energy, and hopefully you guys are hearing me okay. You're not hearing a feedback, right? Actually, you guys are hearing me okay? Are you hearing feedback? Because last time when I shared my screen, audio was a little off. Please let me know. Are you hearing me okay? I'm just going to keep going. Sound good? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Shar. All right. So there are, at the very least, 4 types of energy where classical feng shui is concerned, okay? There's permanent energy. There's, I call it permanent energy. Other, my peers might call it the natal chart or whatever, okay? It's just the original energy, the foundational, the feng shui frame or the feng shui foundation of your home, okay? There's also annual energy, and that energy changes every year, which is why every year I have my feng shui training where I get you guys, at least the ones who register, I get you guys ready to feng shui your home based on the energy of the year, right? This is where my annual training is based off of, but that's also connected to your permanent energy. There's also monthly energy. There's a set of energy that changes every month, right? That's why certain months are maybe a little bit more challenging than other months, because energy is cyclical, right? There's a good month, there's a not so great month, right? Because it constantly changes. And there's also energy that changes daily. Now, for those of you who are new to feng shui, you don't necessarily, I mean, it's great if you can, but it definitely takes some training and some guidance on how to do this properly. But if you're new to classical feng shui and you can't, or you don't know how to do it based on the monthly or the daily, that is fine. The daily is where we do a lot of like the date selection, even like those in my higher level in manifesting code, actually the elite platinum, I'm actually going to be doing like a private date selection where I do date selection for them based on the daily energies, right? But today we are talking about the permanent energies. And the permanent energy is determined by the period, which is the time, plus the facing, which is the compass reading, okay? Again, those of you who are trained in classical feng shui, or at the very least, those of you who took my annual training, we talk about the facing or the compass reading all the time. We won't cover it here. Today, we are talking about the period, which is part of the formula that this is the period is half of the formula needed, or the information needed to calculate the permanent energy of your home. You guys get this so far? Okay. So in classical feng shui, there's actually 2 types of cycles, but for flying star feng shui, we use this cycle, this chart that I'm sharing with you here. Okay. So this chart is called the 3 cycles and the 9 period. In Chinese, it's called 3元9运. Okay. So every cycle has 60 years because every cycle has 3 periods. And every period is 20 years. So period 1, for instance, started from 1864 till 1883. Period 2 is started from 1884 till 1903. So periods 1, 2, 3, meaning from 1864 until 1923, these years belong to the upper yuan, the upper cycle. okay, and so on and so forth. So what cycle and what period are we in right now? Actually, I can't see your comments because I have the screen boosted up, but okay. What period and what cycle are we in right now? We are in period 8 because right now we're year 2020. We are period 8. We are in the lower yuan, lower cycle. Okay, you guys don't need to worry about the cycle so much. At this point right now, we are talking about the period. Okay, we are determining the period. Now that you know, this is how we determine based on the year, which year falls onto which period. Okay, the determining period is a hotly contested topic in Feng Shui. In all honesty, many of the grandmasters cannot agree in terms of how to determine the period. Some schools determine period based on the building construction date. So for instance, if your house was built in 1934, for instance, then your house would be period 4 based on that school. Okay, that school would say, okay, period is we say that school will say that they determine period based on the construction. Some schools even say the start of construction. Some schools say the finish of the construction. It's just really confusing, right? But let's say if your house finished building in 1934, that school will say that your that house would be period 4, even though there are different occupants moving in and out after the house was built. Okay, and then some schools would say that the period is determined by the date the first occupant moved in. Okay, now for instance, this house that I just got, we think it's about 100 years old. Okay, so if it's 100 years old, so we're 2020, it would be 1920. Okay, 1920s. So I could potentially be, if we follow the other schools, my house would be potentially period 3 if it's built in 1920, okay? Or if it's like between 1924 till, let's say 1928, it would be period 4. But how would I know when the first occupants moved in, right? What if the house was built and then 3 years late and 3 years on, no one lives there? How can what if there are no records? Then if I have no records on when the first occupants move in, I would not know what period my house is. How many of you have bumped into that conundrum? How many of you have, like, I believe Lita was the one who said Lita actually took my certification course. Prior to my certification course, she was doing the period based on construction date, right? That's fine if it's a fairly new building where you can, let's say, go to the city planning office and figure out when the building was finished construction, when maybe it was ready for occupancy. But my lineage that I am in, which is the school of Grandmaster Tan Yang, okay, we base our period on the date of your move in. Okay, meaning, so I have a 100-year-old house, 1920s. Okay, I don't know what year specifically, right? It could be period 3 if it was 1922, let's say. It could be period 4, let's say if it's 1924. In my school, based on my grandmaster, our school says that your period is based on your move-in date. And because me and my family, we moved in, officially we moved in January this year, that would make this a period 8 house. Again, if you just joined us, why is determining period so important? Getting the period right is really important because that is how we calculate the permanent energy of the home. If you get the period wrong, then the calculation is wrong, right? If you get the compass reading wrong, the calculation for your permanent energy will be wrong. No ifs and buts about it. That is why this is so important. If you are in a building and you have many different units, the period is still based on when you moved into your unit, your apartment. Okay? So the previous building that I was in, it was a period 6 house. It finished building, from what I can Google, that building was finished in 1980. And I'm assuming there are, actually I've met people who've been in that building since they first opened doors. So there are people in that same building that have a period, they are in period 6. There are people in that same building that are in period 7. And my family and I, we moved in 2008, I think. We would be period 8. So it's the same building, but our permanent energy is different because our period is different. The whole building will have the same facing because it's one building. Everyone will have the same facing, and this is another conversation altogether. But because we have period 6, 7, and 8, then there are occupants in that building that will have different permanent energy. Okay? Who is lost so far? So the thing about classical feng shui is when you get it right, it is absolutely beautiful to see the information unfold. If you get the period right, the facing right, you can calculate back to how the experiences would be for the people living in that house or building or space, right? Many times. And even my students who are just like freshly graduated from my course, you can be the information from the correct period and the correct facing, and we calculate the permanent energy of the house. We can pinpoint why certain family members got sick. We can pinpoint why certain marriages didn't last long in that house. We can pinpoint where your money corners are. We can pinpoint all these things. We can look to the past, and then the client will confirm, okay, yeah, this actually did happen like 3-4 years ago. How did you know? Well, we did our permanent energy calculation, and that's how we can see. And that is how we can also forecast. With the right permanent energy calculation, a properly trained consultant can also forecast what could happen in the future. I can't share the email, I guess, because of privacy, but I would have emails where my clients will email me back and say, Safrina, your forecast came true. How did you know? Like, I would give them a written report for their house, like months before, and then something would happen a few months later, and then they go back to the report and they're like, oh, Safrina called it. It's not like I'm psychic. It's because the way my grandmaster passed down his observation, his wisdom, his knowledge down to us, we are honored enough to be given a set of knowledge that is not just powerful, but accurate. Now, case study. Let me start a You guys have any questions? Char says, I've done all three and the move-in date was in line with the energies. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. My house was built 2017, so period 8. Yes. Okay. Any other comments? And that's the thing, right? The proof is in the pudding, in that, okay, Safrina, you're saying that me or the Grandmaster is saying that the move-in date, your move-in date is your period, right? What if I don't believe you? What if I don't believe you? So here's another, basically another way to kind of explain the whole thing. Before we go into the case study, let me just show this, okay? So you guys have heard me talk about 天地人 before, right? Which is basically okay, actually I should go the other way because it's 天人地 in this case at least, okay? So 天人地. 天 is heaven. Oh, I'm not gonna subject you guys to this. Okay, here. 天 is heaven. Oops. 人 is mankind. Okay, and 地 is earth. Now, another way to kind of see the in terms of determining the period. Okay. So we have a house. We have a house, and the house is being built, okay? The house is being built, actually, maybe, you know, they did the, you know, they're doing the frames and whatever, and then they put in the roof. With the roof, the heaven luck is now, the heaven luck or the heaven energy is now set, okay? And then with the house being built on the ground, okay, the earth energy is set. Okay. When the first occupants move in, I can understand why some schools think first occupant is what solidifies the period. Is when the people move in, they start living there, then the mankind luck is also now in the equation. This is when all three energies, it's like a lock, right? When you get the right combination, it locks the period. Okay? But when this person moves out, then the mankind energy is once again missing, right? Right now we only have heaven and earth because there's still the house, right, on top of the earth, right? We're missing mankind. Let's say this house got sold, right? It changed ownership. So the old owners moved out, took all their furniture with them. The new people moved in. Okay, let's say the previous owners were period 7. They moved in, let's say 2002, right? They were period 7. They move out. Now, they sold last year, let's say, right? 2019. This guy moves in 2019. So this guy, again, locks the mankind luck. Now you have all the trinity, right? And he locks in the period 8 energy. It makes sense, right? So the case study that I wanted to show you It was an actual consulting client of mine. Okay. It's a retail. I love doing this one because I was fairly new as a feng shui consultant. Well, maybe not new. I think I was at that point 4 years maybe. So it was retail stores, and all the retail stores have their door located here. Okay. My client's mother owned this whole row of stores. So she let her daughters take up one for their business. Okay, and that was period 7. In period 7, the money was here. Because remember, the formula for permanent energy is period plus facing, right? Remember, that's the formula. So everyone, all these stores were period 7, period 7, period 7, period 7 when they moved in period 7. So everyone had money at the door. Okay. For one reason or another, they moved away. Okay, let's say I believe some wanted to retire, or some wanted a different location, so on and so forth, right? So they changed hands. And when the tenants changed hands in period 8, these guys became period 8. And I could see, out of curiosity, I plotted the chart for period 8 because I asked the client, so all the layouts are the same, right? Yep. But most importantly for a business is the door, right? Once they became period 8, the money is no longer there. And in fact, it's a lot of competition here. The energy that's coming through the main door of the business is competition. And the client confirmed that these other businesses didn't stay long. And yet theirs still did really well. It's not because their mom owned it. It was because they have money at the door. Okay. So that was just one of the many situations. But this is my favorite case study when it comes to determining period, because you could see the difference in terms of these stores' experience. If they were still period 7, which some schools would say is what determines, this was built in period 7, so some schools would say, okay, it's built in period 7, therefore the whole place is period 7. Then their experience does not align with the period 7 experience for these new guys. That's not their experience in those stores at all. Right? Again, the proof is in the pudding. You need to see, okay, if this is the permanent energy, then the experience of the people in this space should be da 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 da. Okay? Be it affecting their health positively or negatively, affecting their finances positively or negatively, affecting their relationships positively or negatively. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to share with you guys in terms of determining period. So if you're still doing DIY feng shui and you're doing your period based on the construction date or based on when the first occupant moved in, I highly recommend that you switch to your own move-in date. Because I've been at this almost 12 years now. It is so much more aligned. Your experience in that place will be so much more aligned with the permanent energy that is locked in when you moved in. Okay. You guys are really quiet. How do you feel about that? Any questions? Reshma says somebody blocked my money. You can unblock it. It's mindset as well, right? It's not necessarily connected to this topic, but I just wanted to comment on that. No one can take away your good unless you allow them. Okay. So if you think someone is blocking your money, you're actually putting more power into that person blocking your money. And it may or may not be true. If you claim that your prosperity is in your hands, no one can take your prosperity away, claim that. Claim it. And prosperity will be yours. Okay. Abby is saying how? How what? Ushi says it makes sense. Yes. I can't read Arabic. So, but you said question extra, please. What do you mean? Can you expound on that? Sen is asking, is door tilting effective to remedy those doors with competition? Honestly, door tilting is not for DIY people. Do not attempt door tilting on your own. It's the same as people who want to put water features to activate for money on their own without a properly, and I mean properly, because not a lot of consultants are even trained in door tilting. Door tilting is very advanced. If done wrong, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. Lydia is asking, so the mankind luck is like substance to any container. Well, in terms of, well, the mankind luck in the house example that I gave, how do I share this? Okay, so like in the house example, right? It's not, as long as one of the three is taken away, then the current period breaks down. And whatever new period is still based on when the Trinity gets together again. So let's say the same people moved in, let's say period 7. Okay, let's say this guy moved in period 7. Okay. Not 2019. Okay, whatever. Let's say he moved in period 7. And then he replaced his whole, maybe he had a fire. Okay, maybe his house caught fire and he had to put in a new roof. Because this roof is gone, at least 30 days they were fixing the roof. Now the heaven is gone. The heaven element is gone. Only the mankind and the earth stayed there. Once the new roof is completed, then the Trinity is together again. And let's say they fix the roof, let's say in period 8. Then once the new roof is in there, this becomes period 8. As long as one of the three is taken away. Okay? And then you look at when is the next time that the Trinity gets together again, basically. Okay. Good question. Okay. Abby says, if for that case study that I said, if the money is no longer at the door, then how do you get it back? Then based on the new permanent energy, you determine where the money is and you activate it. If it happens to be at the front of the store, you move the door, you know. So for instance, if if let's say for period 8, let's say the door is over here. Okay, let's say they're facing south, right? South, let's say they're facing north. Okay, and based on period 8, let's say, okay, that the money is now in the northeast, the strongest money, for instance. Then see, they can move the door to the northeast, right? Some retail stores, the owners will let you move it, some won't, right? But the same thing with the house. It's a big change, changing your main door, but if you're willing to do that, then that's the best way, because having money at the door is the best way to make sure that the chi that comes in is prosperous. If you can't move your door, then you activate it some other way. Okay, you can use that area more. You can keep it yang. You can activate it. I don't want to give particular elements to use, because activating the money is based on what is the actual permanent energy here. You may or may not use water. You may or may not use fire. You may or may not use wood. You may or may not use metal to activate energy. You may or may not use earth. I can't tell you what element to put, because it really depends on what is the permanent energy there. Okay, so my thing is, you cannot learn feng shui from a book. You can't. It's not because I want people to take my certification course. It's because if you try to do it off of a book that does not look at the uniqueness of your layout, then it's missing a big part of the picture. And if you try to do DIY without any guidance, and many of you have come to me and say, Safrina, I tried to do it on my own. I made things worse. Some of you watching, you're probably finding that as well. Feng Shui is actually not something to play around with. If done right, it can make your life so much easier. If done wrong, it can make you very miserable. Even so-called Feng Shui consultants, even some of my students, after they got certified, they went to fix other consultants' mistakes, because even those other consultants, they got the period wrong. Some of them, they get the facing wrong. Then they get all their calculation wrong. So Feng Shui, to be honest, needs to come with a warning. If you try to do it from what you learn from a book, be prepared to see more negative than positive, because the margin for error is pretty high with Feng Shui. Okay. What is door tilting? Okay, it is, I don't know if I want to go into this. Door tilting basically means, instead of your door facing, let's say, square to the house like this, don't try to do it DIY, you guys. Okay. So let me make sure I am sharing this. So let's say this is the house, okay? Let's say it's facing 90 degrees, east 2, okay? And let's say it hasn't worked out well. Okay, let's say the door is here, okay? It hasn't worked out well for the clients. And properly, even those guys who took my certification course, you guys are not at the level to do door tilting as yet, okay? Instead of the door opening this way, the door frame goes like that. They actually put the door frame like this. Let's say there's a lot of things to look at before you decide what degree to have the door facing, okay? Then the door actually opens this way. It'll look weird, But even my grandmaster, I don't believe my grandmaster does a lot of door tilting himself. There's other ways to go about that. Okay, so that's what it's mostly done in Asia, but again, it's usually done wrong. That's why it can be good when done right, where not a lot of people are trained in that. And so it, you know, it could get really bad. I'm just seeing if there's anything that's K Mehta is asking, do you have any tips for powder room or toilet and beam in the center of the house? You renovate, take away the beam. If it's a weight-bearing beam, then you cover it. Like you put a ceiling over it, cover the beam. Okay. Okay, you guys seem to get this question. I seem to be getting this question a lot. What if the previous people kept some of the furniture and you move in? Some furniture, I'm fine. Okay, but if you move in with and you can live in there basically with just what you brought in your suitcase, that's different. That's way too much furniture. Okay, if they left, let's say, a couple of bookcases, maybe some paintings, obviously they'll leave the stove, like the kitchen appliances, right? It's fairly empty. You still need to bring in your own things, especially your bed. Then if you need to bring in a lot of your own stuff, then that's a new period. Again, that's very generalized. Those of you who are in the annual training, you have seen so many other people's questions about determining the period where there's so much gray area, right? There's a lot of gray area. Let's say the house was fully furnished, but the owner passed away. No one lived in that house for like 10, 15 years, but the furniture is still there, but no one goes into the house. Do you think in 10, 15 years that the mankind energy would have dissipated by then? For sure. But these are situations, it is so unique, quite uncommon, right? Feng Shui is not cut and dry. It may have guidelines, but there are always exceptions to the rule. So in terms of the furniture, again, my what do you call that? My barometer or my whatever, I can't think of a word, would be, do you need to bring in your own furniture in order to be able to live comfortably? If all the furnishings that they left is so minor that you can't, like the owner left, well, actually we asked for their piano. This house that we got, they've been here 23 years, so that would make it, someone do the math for me. So 2020, yeah. So they've been 23 years. They were period 7, right? But I asked them to leave the piano because I wanted to go back to playing piano. Does that mean that I'm still in period 7? No. I'm period 8. Okay. No more DIY for, yeah. Unfortunately. Abby, you're not the only one. You're not the only one. It might make you feel better. I don't know. But that is why I get a lot of these questions from you guys. A lot of it is very specific to the house. That's why I just skip it. I can't answer it because I don't have enough information to answer. If I give you, pardon the language, if I give you half-assed, if I give you information, if I give you recommendation based on half-assed information, I could make things very bad for you. I don't want that on my conscience. Proper feng shui needs proper information. And sometimes it means sitting down with, you know, like a private consult or going through it with someone who is trained. Okay? Where do you find information about my course? I will post it under the video in Facebook and on YouTube if you guys want to take a look at that. I am currently taking registrations. I've already got quite a few, 2 registering today, in fact. The next registration certification round is January 21st till 24th. It is done all online, but there is a selection process. I'm not taking anyone just because they can pay for the course. I do want to make sure that I bring the right students on board. Okay. Jamie's asking, will painting the front door affect the residents in the house? Yes. Again, this is where fast food feng shui makes it really bad for people. Those of you who have followed me for a while, you know I am very careful with red. Okay? You see red in my background, you see my chair being red, but that's because this room can actually take red. But it's not a lot of red anyway. I take it down. It's a temporary thing. But fast food feng shui tells you, if you want a prosperous house, you paint your door red. Who has heard this? Who has heard that painting the door red is lucky? It's a lucky color for the door. Again, they don't look at the period. They don't look at the facing. They don't look at the layout. How is it possible that all the doors, the front doors in the world, how is it possible that you can do a general swath of recommendation and everyone who put their front door red will have good luck? Does that make sense to you? Right? The front door color should be aligned with the energy, the permanent energy that is at the front door. So it could be blue, it could be black, it could be white, it could be gray, it could be red, it could be green. It depends on what is the permanent energy at the door. Unfortunately, I know many of you guys are going to be really sick and tired of hearing me say this, right? It really depends on your permanent energy, which we now know is based on the period and the facing of your house. That is the basis of the calculation. Okay. Lydia says, I have seen it a lot in China. Well, that's because Chinese, as a culture, they love red. That's why their lanterns are red. Like everything prosperous is like during Chinese New Year, it's like someone painted Chinatown red. Right? It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing that red is auspicious. But put culture aside. Feng Shui, it may originate from China, but Feng Shui is the study of energy and how the elements, the relationship of the energy and the elements, the 5 elements, fire, earth, water, wood, metal, right? That's what Feng Shui is. It's not cultural. Like you don't need to put a laughing Buddha. You don't need to put a dragon. You don't need, that's Chinese cultural symbolic things. They want to put it in their Chinese house, that's fine. But that doesn't mean for you to do Feng Shui, you have to put what they put in China, right? Yeah. Miriam says, I have been told that my period is wrong, not from moving date, but from... Miriam, you are confused because you're following different schools. Okay? You need to decide. I mean, you've been following me for so many years now, especially in the annual training. You need to decide, do you want to follow this school or that school. That's actually part of the reason why, like when I mentioned a certification course, some of the students have been trained elsewhere. Okay, one student in particular spent many years and quite a bit of money with a different school. And it is a classical school, but I am not here to, I'm here to judge fast food feng shui, but I'm not here to judge other classical feng shui schools that I do admire. So I asked her, I know the way that school does their formulas and calculation is different from the way we do our formulas and calculation. And because she's already invested time and money in that other school, I actually suggested that she keep following that school. Because otherwise, all the time and money that she invested, like, you have to choose. You can't choose two different, you can't put, in feng shui, you cannot put your feet in two different boats. You're going to fall into the water. Okay? My school says construction, move-in date. Other school says construction date. Other school says first occupant date. You have to decide what you want to follow. Then you won't be confused. Okay. All I can say is when I take, when I go to the Grandmaster's course, we have students from all other schools as well. And throughout the class, throughout the courses, I would hear like people whispering, like the other students whispering, and they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. This is why this thing happened. Like, in all honesty, a lot of the other students from the other schools, once they come into the information that we do in our lineage, they actually let go of what the other schools do. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I know the color of the door is a big interest for you guys, but it's not something that I want to cover here because we need to go over a few other things before I even talk about that. So let me see the time. Okay. Any other questions regarding determining the period? Great questions, by the way. By the way, oh, while I'm waiting for questions, if there are any more, those of you who have not joined me in Feng Shui 2021, please do. You can register now at fengshui2021.com. And if you guys, I also have a free video series. Basically, the free video series is more for people who are new to Feng Shui, who are still doing fast food Feng Shui. The video series is where I really want to break the cycle of fast food Feng Shui for you guys, if you're still stuck at that. Again, there are people who try to do fast food Feng Shui and do Flying Star. That's why they're confused, just like what I told Miriam earlier. You have to, I want to say something, you know, maybe a little unladylike, but you have to choose. If you want to keep doing fast food Feng Shui, then do fast food Feng Shui. If you want to do Flying Star Feng Shui, you do Flying Star Feng Shui. And in classical, there's so many different schools as well, right? So that all really depends. Like when I do, so this one, the determining period, I must say, okay, you use this for Flying Star and you use this for Qi Du Jia, okay? For advanced schools such as the 6 methods and for Xuan Kong Da Gua, and oh, there's one more school. We actually use a different determining period. I'm not going to go into that because it uses the early heaven and not the later heaven Bakwa, and because of that, then the cycles are all different. But anyway, what I just showed here, you use for Flying Star. You use for Qi Du Jia. Okay. So yeah, so bit.ly/Feng Shui School Series is more for you guys who are confused about Feng Shui. It's a series of 4 videos. Every day you get one short video. I think the longest probably like 10 minutes or something. Short videos where I go over the fast food feng shui, the feng shui for newbies that you can follow if you want to, a little bit of a peek into flying star feng shui and another peek into advanced feng shui. So register there if you're curious, and if you want to learn how to get your house ready for 2021, then you join me and all the other beautiful people who are already in Feng Shui 2021. Then I will get you ready, get your house ready based on the annual and the permanent energy of your home. Okay? Or I should say, how to do the annual placements based on the permanent energy of your home. I know it's a little bit confusing, but Feng Shui is confusing. Feng Shui is not meant to be simple. Feng Shui is not meant to be easily digestible, unfortunately, right? Something that is as powerful as Feng Shui has to be a little bit complicated, unfortunately, okay? So, yes, Ellen, oh, yeah. So the video series does have really good information. So thank you for that. All right, you guys. I'm going to leave you guys here. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.